The most interesting game, though, ends up this past evening on Tuesday night against Tulane. The Bulldogs traveled to Biloxi and won. It's the way this is every single year. The Bulldogs always go down to Biloxi to play a game or two. Sometimes they play two during spring break. And when they do that, the feed is almost always terrible. It's almost always absolutely terrible. And this was no exception. They eventually got it figured out a little bit, but the feed at first was just so incredibly jumpy. It was jumping all over the place. And they eventually got it after a few times when the broadcast just completely went out. They eventually got to the point where you could actually see it. It wasn't jumping around, but the audio was a good 3 or 4 seconds ahead of the video. So you were hearing what was going on before you saw it happening. It was a really odd thing to watch, but nevertheless, the Bulldogs end up pulling out the victory 11-7, but it was not without theatrics. The Bulldogs were down at 1.7-2. They weren't swinging the bats well at all. They had some really, really poor at bats. They were swinging at pitches they shouldn't have been swinging at. They were doing things they shouldn't have been doing at the plate. It was very uncharacteristic for a baseball team that we had seen show such discipline and such patience at the plate so far this year. The fact that they weren't doing that against Tulane for a good portion of this game ends up coming into the win column is a bit surprising because, like I said, they had so many poor plate appearances. It was looking really, really bad for a little bit. But then finally, in the bottom half of the seventh, Mississippi State is down 7-2. The bases get loaded for Ace Reese. And I tweeted this after he hits the grand slam. I tweeted this, this just seemed inevitable. There was nowhere to put him. If they walk him, if they don't pitch to him, then they're going to end up bringing in a run anyway, just because the bases are loaded. And if you walk him or you try to pitch around him, like I said, a run will come in regardless. So they have to come after him. And if they decided, you know what, we'll give up a run here and pitch the next guy. Well, Noah Sullivan is up next, and Noah Sullivan can do almost as much damage as Ace Reese can do. So they didn't have any real good options. And like I said, it just really felt inevitable. Ace Reese ends up going slightly opposite field to the left center, over the left center field wall, and ends up hitting a grand slam. And it just completely rejuvenates the crowd. It completely rejuvenates the team. They end up scoring 7 runs, I think, in that inning, end up taking a 9-7 lead. They would end up tacking on 2 more in the next couple of innings and end up winning the game 11-7. The one thing I have said since the start of this baseball season, and I think this continues to be true, is there are going to be just times that this team has to just outslug the other team. And that's what they ended up having to do last night.